Hi, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Muhammad Ilias, M. Shuhud. I'm going to present this paper entitled Online Reputation of Malim Gunung Perhutanan MGP after the Mount Liang tragedy. This paper also co-authored with Muhammad Nurfitri Muhammad Faisalni from the Faculty of Defence Studies and Management, Universiti Pertahanan Nasional Malaysia, and also Azuan Ahmad from Faculty of Science and Technology USIM, similar with me. This study is situated within the context of rapid growth of hiking and ecotourism in Malaysia. In recent years, hiking has become increasingly popular due to greater health awareness, post-pandemic domestic travels, and in the influence of social media. Economically, this growth is significant. The ecotourism market in Malaysia was valued at approximately USD 926.6 million, about RM 4.5 billion in the past year, 2024. It is projected to reach USD 2.45 billion by 2033. This highlights that hiking and nature-based tourism are no longer niche activities but an important economic sector. However, alongside with this growth, there has been an increasingly in safety-related incidents which has attracted greater public scrutiny, particularly within incident occur in permanent forest reserve. In this context, Malim Gunung Perhutanan, or MGP, plays a critical role as a formal regulator and safety actor responsible for guiding risk management and emergency response within forest areas. Therefore, monitoring online reputation through social media analysis become a valuable tool for understanding public perceptions and identifying emerging issues and evaluating trust in institutions such as MGP. Alright, before we go further, let's take a look what happened in Mount Liang recently. So, where is Mount Liang? Mount Liang is located in Perak, Malaysia, with an elevation approximately 1,722 meters above sea level, making it a challenging hiking environment, particularly under adverse weather conditions. On October 10, 2025, a hiker was found dead alone at the peak with hypothermia identified as the cause of death. This incident marked a critical moment for hiking governance and safety management in Malaysia. The incident quickly escalated into a crisis event, not only because the fatality itself, but due to public concerns regarding leadership's preparedness and accountability in managing guided hiking activities. These concerns were further amplified through social media discourse, where public reactions, opinions, and criticisms spread rapidly across multiple platforms, contributing to reputational damage for responsible institutions. As a result, the Mount Liang incident served as a fatal case for examining how crisis events affect public trust and institutional reputation within the hiking and ecotourism sector. During this incident happened, actually I was at nearby mountain of Mount Liang, which is Mount Ulu Sepat, at the border between Kelantan and Perak. So this case is widely discussed during the hike. Despite the growing popularity of hiking and increasing importance of safety governance, the existing literature reveals several key gaps that this study seeks to address. First, there are a limited empirical study that specifically examine the reputation of hiking guide institutions, while prior research has focused on tourism safety and adventure tourism broadly. The organizational reputation of certified mountain guides remains unexplored. Second, there is a lack of discussion on value-based governance within the context of outdoor safety management. Existing studies tend to emphasize technical procedures and operational efficiencies with limited attention given to how ethical values, accountability, and governance frameworks shape safety outcome. Third, although social media sentiment analysis is widely used in tourism and crisis studies, its application within the forestry and mountain guiding context remains limited. This creates a gap in understanding how public perception and trust evolve following incident in permanent forest reserves. Together, these gaps justify the need for this study, which integrate online sentiment analysis with a value-based governance perspective to examine the post-crisis reputation of Maling Gunung Perhutanan. This study is guided by three main research objectives. First, it aims to examine online public sentiment following the Mount Liang incident, focusing on how the event shaped public trust and perceptions and discourse toward Maling Gunung Perhutanan (MGP). Second, the study compares public perceptions of Maling Gunung Perhutanan with sentiment toward the broader hiking community. This comparison helps to distinguish whether reputational impact was organizational in nature or reflected a wider loss of confidence in hiking activities. Third, based on the finding, the study seeks to propose a governance improvement framework grounded in value-based management or VBM with the aim of strengthening safety, governance, accountability, and public trust. It's also important to note my positionality as well as Fitri in this research. We have been registered as Malim Gunung or MGP or Mountain Guide for Negeri Sembilan since April 2025, but I think Fitri is more senior than me. This professional involvement provides contextual insight into the guiding system and governance structure, while the study maintains analytical objectivity through systematic data collection and transparent methodology. Previous studies showed that professional mountain guiding plays critical role in improving hikers' safety and managing risks, especially in challenging natural environment. Hassan and Rahim 2020 and Rahman et al. 2021 highlight that certified guides helps reduce accidents through better route planning, hazard awareness, and emergency preparedness. In addition, guided systems contribute to environmental protection by controlling visitor behavior and limiting damage to forest ecosystem. Certification also increases professionalism, which helps build trust in hiking management system. The literature on tourism crisis management indicates that accidents or fatalities can quickly damage the organization's reputations. Lim 2023 explained that public trust is shaped not only by the incident itself, but how institutions respond during and after the crisis. Kaplan and Heinlein 2020 further emphasized that social media accelerates the spread of opinions, of emotions, and play in making reputation recovery more challenging. Therefore, effective crisis communication become a key factor in restoring public confidence. Social media sentiment analysis become a widely accepted method for examining public perception during crisis. According to Liang 2023, analyzing hundreds to a few thousand comments is sufficient to identify dominant sentiment patterns. Kaplan and Heinlein 2020 also note that social media data allow researchers to capture real-time public reactions, making it particularly suitable for crisis-related studies where perception evolve rapidly. Most everyone now has social media account from TikTok, Facebook, X, Instagram, and you name it. Okay, on governance and value-based management, what is VBM or value-based management? VBM is a management approach that prioritizes ethical values, stakeholders' welfare, and long-term sustainability in organizational decision-making. From a governance perspective, value-based management has been shown to strengthen ethical practices and service quality. In A.B. Mumin 2012 and Hassan et al. 2014 explained that MS 1900 or 1900 integrate Sharia-based and universal ethical values into organizational management systems. Arnie in 2022 further argued that such frameworks are suitable not only for religious institutions but also for public service and safety-oriented organizations, making the Malaysia Sirim 1900 a relevant model for guiding institutions like MGP. Okay, now let's take a look at the methodology. This study adopts a mixed method online sentiment analysis approach to examine public discourse following the Mount Liang incident. A qualitative analysis was used to identify overall sentiment distribution, while qualitative interpretation helped explain recurring themes and narrative within the incident or on the comments of the incidents. A total of 1,246 social media comments were collected from 4 major platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and X. The data were extracted using export comment platform, which allows systematic collection of publicly available comments. The comments were then analyzed using a bilingual Malay-English sentiment classifier to categorize each entry as positive, neutral, and negative. This approach reflects Malaysia's multilingual online environment and improves analytical accuracy. Finally, descriptive and comparative analyses were conducted to compare sentiment towards MGP with sentiment toward the broader hiking community. This enabled the study to identify whether reputational impact was organizational or the activity based in nature. Perhaps someone is afraid of going hiking anymore. Okay, on data justifications, the data used in this study are justified on several methodological grounds. First, the sample size of 1,247 social media comments is consistent with the prior tourism crisis, an online sentiment study which commonly analyzed several hundred to a few thousand comments to capture dominant public perceptions. Second, a data saturation was achieved at approximately 1,000 comments. Beyond this point, additional data did not generate new sentiment patterns or analytical insights, indicating that the dataset was sufficient to address the research objective. Third, the use of multi-platform data improved representativeness by collecting comments from Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and X. The study captured diverse user demographic and communication styles, reducing platform-specific bias. Specifically, Facebook reflects older users and more detailed discussions. TikTok captured rapid and emotional response from younger users. And Instagram provide brief, visually driven engagement, when X represents real-time and critical discourse. Together, these platforms provide a balanced and comprehensive picture of public sentiment. The analysis of 1,247 social media comments shows that the public sentiment toward MGP was predominantly negative toward the Mohd incidents. Approximately 55% of the comments expressed a negative sentiment, with most criticism directed at issue of leadership, accountability, and crisis communication. About 25% of comments were neutral, focusing mainly on factual updates and procedural matters, while 20% reflected positive sentiment, often highlighting MGP previous contribution to hiking safety. In contrast, sentiment towards the broader hiking community remained largely positive, thankfully, with around 60% of comments expressing continued enthusiasm for hiking activities. This contrast suggests that the public largely perceived the incident as an organizational and governance failure rather than the failure of hiking as recreational activities. So we can still go hiking. Okay, beyond the descriptive finding, the results suggest an important distinction in how the public interpreted the Liang incident. The negative sentiment directed at MGP appears to reflect dissatisfaction with organizational governance, leadership accountability, and crisis response rather than rejection of hiking or outdoor recreation itself. This indicates that the reputational damage experienced by MGP is not structural or permanent, but potentially recoverable. Public discourse suggests that trust erosion was driven by perceived value failure, such as inadequate transparency and responsibility, rather than by the inherent risk of hiking. From a governance perspective, this implies that technical improvement alone may be insufficient. Instead, restoring public confidence requires a shift toward value-driven management where safety, accountability, and ethical responsibility are clearly demonstrated in both practice and communication. MGP plays a role that extends beyond recreational guiding and should be understood within Malaysia's broader security landscape. In line with a whole of government and whole of society approach, national security is no longer the sole responsibility of formal security agencies, but involve multiple actors operating within their respective domains. So MGP function as first responder in forest environment, providing early intervention during emergencies such as loss, hikers, injuries, and adverse weather conditions. Their training in safety, rescue, and emergency management position them as a critical support entity to the forestry department and other responding agency. From this perspective, MGP contribute to non-traditional security domain, particularly environment security and public safety. Strengthening MGP governance and professionalism therefore has implication not only for tourism management but also for national resilience and security preparedness in forests and remote areas. Okay, on governance weaknesses. The analysis of public sentiment revealed several governance-related weaknesses that contributed to the negative perception of MGP following the Liang incident. First, crisis communication was largely perceived as reactive rather than proactive, with delay and limited clarity contributing to public dissatisfaction. No clearly defined crisis communication plan among the MGP. Second, the findings suggest a lack clearly articulated accountability mechanism. Public discourse reflected uncertainty regarding role, responsibility, and decision-making authority during and after the incident, which weakened institutional credibility. Third, there appears to be an absence of explicit value-driven performance indicator, particularly those prioritizing safety and ethical responsibility, while operational procedure exists were not perceived as being guided by clear safety first or stakeholder-centered values. This means among the MGP itself, and not including the public safety departments like the fire, JPA, and so on, because they received this incident information a bit late. So the first responder is the MGP. They have to inform the public safety departments very, very quick. Here are some examples of critical communication plan for different events, including cybersecurity research, natural disaster response. All of these crises has its own communication plan. So we believe that MGP also need a crisis communication plan during hiking. Alright, in response to the governance weakness identified, this study proposed a strategic shift in the management of MGP from predominantly operational focus toward a very value-based management approach. This shift emphasized in the integration of core service value, particularly safety, accountability, and environment stewardship, into all aspects of organization decision making, rather than treating safety as procedural requirement. It became a primary performance indicator that guides training, operation, and evaluation. Under this approach, leadership, accountability, crisis communication, and stakeholder engagement are aligned with clearly articulated value. Ultimately, the proposed strategic shift aims to restore public trust by demonstrating that MGP governance is not only by efficiency but ethical responsibility and long-term sustainability. To operationalize this value-based approach, the study proposed MS 1900 Sharia-based quality management system as a suitable governance framework. To operationalize the proposed VBM approach, the study suggests the adoption of MS 1900 as a suitable governance framework for MGP. Why? MGP 1900 provides a structured and auditable system that translates ethical and organizational value into concrete management practices. Rather than remaining at conceptual level, it embeds values such as safety, accountability, integrity, and environmental stewardship into policies, procedures, performance indicator, and leadership responsibility. In context of MGP, MS 1900 enable safety and ethical responsibility to be treated as core quality objective rather than secondary operational consideration. It also strengthens governance through clear accountability, documented decision making procedures, and improved transparency, particularly during crisis situation. So by aligning daily operation and crisis response with VBM, MS 1900 offer a practical pathway for restoring public trust, enhancing professionalism, and supporting sustainable outdoor recreation management in Malaysia. Okay, here are proposed conceptual mapping. At the conceptual level, value-based management defines core principles such as safety, ethical responsibility, stakeholder welfare, transparency, and sustainability. MS 1900 then operationalized these principles through concrete mechanisms, including value-based quality objective, governance clauses, documented procedure, and long-term orientation. When applied to MGP, this means safety become a primary performance indicator, accountability during incident is clarified, hikers and guides are better protected, crisis communication improves, and public trust can be systematically restored. On policy and practical implications, these findings of this study have several important policy and practical implications. From a policy perspective, and the result highlight the need to strengthen governance and accountability mechanism within mountain guiding institutions, particularly those operating in permanent forest reserve or HSK. Clearly, accreditation standards, formalized crisis communication framework, and value-based performance indicator can help ensure that safety and ethical responsibility are prioritized consistently across guiding operations. These measures are especially relevant for public agency and semi-regulated guiding systems such as MGP. From practical standpoint, the adoption of VBM and MS 1900 framework can improve operationally effectiveness by aligning training, evaluation, and leadership responsibility with core service values. This alignment enhances not only safety outcomes but also public trust and institutional legitimacy. So, in conclusion, this study demonstrates that while the Mount Liang incident resulted in significant negative sentiment toward MGP, public enthusiasm for hiking in Malaysia remains strong. The findings indicate that reputational damage was directed primarily at organizational governance and crisis response rather than at hiking as recreational activities. By organizational multi-platform social media discourse, the study provides empirical evidence of how public trust is shaped during crisis situations. The result highlights the importance of value-driven governance in institutions responsible for public safety in outdoor environment. The study therefore proposed a value-based management as strategic approach for restoring institutional credibility, with MS 1900 presented as practical framework to embed safety, accountability, and ethical responsibility into MGP operations. Overall, this research contributes to the understanding of crisis-driven reputational dynamics in tourism's sector and offer governance-oriented pathway for strengthening the sustainability and professionalism of mountain guiding in Malaysia. So in future, this study opens several avenues for future research. First, longitudinal sentiment analysis could be conducted to examine how public perception toward MGP evolved over time, and particularly before and after governance reform policy interventions. Second, a comparative study involving mountain guiding systems in other countries such as Nepal, Japan, could provide valuable insight into best practice for safety, governance, crisis communication, and guide professionalizations. Third, future research could empirically evaluate the impact of value-based management framework, including MS 1900, as operational safety outcome, organizational trust, and reputational recovery. Together, these directions would deepen understanding how governance, value, and public perceptions interact in high-risk tourism and outdoor recreation contexts. That's the end of the slides. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome for any question and comments. Assalamualaikum.